Hi, this is Maria. I'm going to show you how I did this week's layout. This is the 2018 Big White DigiBujo by Jenny Gollan Designs, and you're looking at Goodnotes, and I'm going to show you how to work this in Procreate because it's easier to do. So I'm going to click the three dots at the top right in Goodnotes and clear the page. So we can start from scratch. Now I'm going to click those same three dots. I'm going to click Export, Export Current Page, click Image, Image again, and Export, Save to the camera roll. That will save this image so that proper sizing is easier to do at the end. Now I'm in Procreate. I'm going to click the plus sign, Screen Size, and that will give me a nice big canvas. And we'll just pinch that down to size so we can see better. I'm going to scroll up from the bottom. I'm going to drag over my photos. Because this is an iPad Pro, I can do this, bring the images in this way. And I'm just going to grab that last image I saved, which is my journal page. And we'll just drop that into place and add a layer. This is Procreate we're working in. I'm going to my albums. I have a planner folder in my camera roll, and I'm just going to look for a weekly spread and drag it over. This is another one by Jenny. I'll link all of her information in the description below. And this one is pretty much done for you. We're just going to alter it just a little bit. So click the selector tool at the top left, and you have options at the bottom. I'm going to click freehand and simply draw around the words that I want to move. I'm going to make this a Sunday start. So you have the option to use freehand. You also have the option to use rectangle at the bottom, and that just simply makes a little rectangle for you. So I'm going to do that, rectangle, and duplicate at the bottom, and that actually puts the word that you duplicated into its own layer. So I'm going to go back to my original layer, selector tool, rectangle, and I'm going to copy out all of the other words. So there's Saturday. I'm going to click duplicate, go back to my layers, and I see there that Saturday, it's in its own layer. So I'm going to go back and do that with all of them. I'm in the original layer, and I'm copying, duplicating every word from this weekly so that I can move them around and transform this weekly spread into a Sunday start. Now, if you like the Monday start, then you don't have to do this step. And just leave it the way it is. But I prefer Sunday starts, so we're going to move all of these words around. So going to my original layer, selector tool, rectangle, and make sure you get from the top all the way to the bottom of the letters, and duplicate, and there it is in its own layer. So Monday's my last one, and there it is. So now I'm going to turn off, I'm just check marking them all off, and I'm going to back into my original layer. I'm going to click my eraser tool, pick a nice hard airbrush, resize my brush there on the left, and I'm simply going to erase on my original sticker all of the words. Since I already duplicated the words, I'm just going to bring them back in here in just a minute. Okay, all of them. I'm going to leave the next week words in there. That one's fine. Okay, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn on the layer that says Sunday. And I'm going to click my arrow tool. There's my Sunday, turned on. Arrow tool and just move Sunday into place. I'm going to go turn on Monday. Arrow tool and move Monday into place. So once the words are in their own layers, you can move them individually. Go back to my layers, find Tuesday. Oops, I'm moving Sunday just a little bit. I'm using the second, third letter as my start. I'm lining up that third letter next to the blocks. Okay, so now I'm turning on Tuesday, line up that E so that all of my words kind of line up. Wednesday, and don't touch the word when you're moving it. Just click your iPencil on the screen and move it. You don't actually have to touch the word to move it. It kind of distorts things when you do. Turn on Thursday, arrow tool, and move it into place. Friday, turn that one on and drop that one. Again, I'm lining that third letter from the end. Saturday, arrow tool, and move that into place. And now I have a Sunday start weekly spread. Now I'm going to go back into layers. You can leave them the way they are, or you can merge them. You click that top layer and the bottom layer, put a finger on each one, and just pinch them together, and now they're all on one layer again. Add a new layer, and we'll move on to a color, and we'll start some decorating. So I'm just going to pick a pretty color, and a paintbrush from Jenny's illustration pack of brushes. I'm just going to check my size here and make sure I like the color that I picked. We'll pick a darker, maybe a little bluish teal. And I'm just playing here to make sure that I like what I'm drawing. 2-finger tap erases. Now that I've kind of figured out what I wanted. Let's see, we're still playing with color. Maybe that one. I'm trying to match the leaves a little bit, the existing leaves. So I'm going to back into that brush pack. These all came together in one pack. And I'm trying to decide, I think we'll do dots. And you can size them. I'm just going to draw around here. I don't like that. Double click. If you can use the sizer tool at the left of your screen to make your dots bigger or smaller. And these are pressure sensitive too, so as I draw, they get bigger. So I'm going to go back into my layers and click the little N and lower the opacity of that. All those dots are on the same layer. And check to see that I like what I've got there. I'm not happy with that bottom layer, so I'm going to double tap to erase. Okay, so I'm just going to use my arrow tool and resize that top one. I'm grabbing the edges and pulling to the left and to the right. And then I'm going to use the selector tool and, I'm going to click selector and rectangle and grab just the one side. There we go. Grab just the one side and arrow tool it over just so it's more symmetrical. Now I'm going to slide and duplicate and move that top layer to the bottom. That's better. Now I can merge those two together. If they won't pinch, just click the top layer and merge down, and that puts them all on one layer. Now click the N to lower the opacity, and now my dots kind of match the rest of the sheet. Okay, look it over and see what else you want to do here. I'm going to add a layer. I'm going to pick a different brush from the same pack here. Let's see, which one do we want to play with? The stippling. I'm going to pick a different color. That's a nice purple, and we're just going to see what it does. So that's awful big. Let's make it smaller. Double tap erase, and I'm adjusting my thickness of my brush. That's kind of small. Let's see what this does. Oh, that's pretty. So we'll just do this, a little bit of stippling on each petal of this white flower. And we'll just run a little bead of that all along each petal, and then we'll take a look and see how that looks. 2-finger tap if you don't like what happens. I went over into the purple a little bit, so I think we might need more of this stippling. I'm going to finish the flower and then take a look. Okay, and we'll resize it. You can barely see that, so let's just add more. Make it more of a shading in each petal. That's a lot more noticeable, and it goes a lot quicker too. Okay, just so we don't have plain white flowers. That's pretty. And we'll change the color dot to a white and use that same brush and do the same thing with the purple flowers. Just for a little texture on each petal. Now, like I said at the beginning, you certainly don't have to do all of this. It is beautiful the way it is. I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit and use some of my purchased brushes. And we'll do this on all of the flowers. So here I'm just going to stop talking while I color the flowers. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to go back to my brushes and pick my next brush that I want to look at. I'm just going to scroll through here until I find the brush I want. I've got a lot of brushes from Jenny. They come in packs. So that one's flowers. Floral frames. I think I'm looking for paint strokes. There we go. We want it. This paint strokes pack comes with a lot of different stamp brushes where you just simply tap the screen and your brush is there. So I'm going to pick a brush. That's a paint stroke. Pick my color, select my size at the left, and I'm just going to make sure I'm in a lead layer, and I'm just going to tap on the screen, and the stamp brush just appears. I'm going to click my arrow tool and move it where I want it. I tap the screen again. That's a little low, so I 2-finger tap to erase and just position it where I want it. If I'm having a little trouble dropping it right where I want, so I can just click my selector tool if it gets too out of hand and just freehand draw around it and then arrow tool it to where I want it to be. Otherwise, your two-finger tap to erase and trying to figure out exactly where to tap on your screen. So selector, freehand, and then move it with your arrow tool just to get them to line up. Now, I'm not happy with the way Thursday is lining up, so I'm going to click my eraser tool and erase Thursday. I'm going to instead use my selector tool and lasso all of those. Go to my layers, swipe to the left, and duplicate. Now I have 2 of those layers, and just drag them over. Now they're not lining up quite right, so I'm going to fix Thursday the way I want it and drop that, and then selector and move each one individually like I had been before. Selector, draw around it, and then move it with the arrow tool. There's Saturday, and there's next week. Okay, go back to my selector and make sure they're just right. Okay, go back to my layers. I can pinch those together or just click the top one and merge down. Now that they're all on one layer, I can click that in and lower the opacity just to make sure I can see the letters clearly through there. I'm going to go back into that same brush pack and pick another brush. I'm going to pick a splatter and see what that looks like. Let me find it first. There it is. Just for a neat effect, I'll pick a different color. And we're just going to tap on the screen and see what it does. It's just splatters. If I don't like that, I'm just going to double tap and erase each one of those strokes. Pick another brush instead and tap on the screen. That's way too big, so 2-finger tap, make that smaller. Adjust my size until it's where I want it, and just tap, tap, tap. And that's where I'm going to write my numbers in, the days of the week. I'm going to go back to my paintbrush and pick another brush. I think we're going to try a square. I'm going to go back to the illustration pack, pick a writing brush and a new layer. And Procreate has an update where if you draw an actual shape and hold it, it straightens for you. So that didn't actually go very straight, so we're going to try it again. I'm following my dots, and if you hold, it goes pretty straight. You can put 2 fingers on the screen and move it with your 2 fingers, or you can use your selector tool and use freeform to draw around it, and then arrow tool and use your other tools at the bottom. You've got uniform that lets you size without changing the aspect ratio, but that doesn't really help you size very well. You've got freeform at the bottom that does let you go left to right, top to bottom. That's probably the better one to use. And then you've also got distort, which lets you do angles, but we're going to keep it straight. Now I'm going to go back up to my layers and slide to the left and duplicate. So I have 2 of those. Use my arrow tool and match it on the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to go up to my layers. I'm going to merge those together. Click the top one, merge down, then the N inside that layer, the little N, and lower the opacity so they match the rest of the look. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my original layer. I'm going to click the S selector tool, and I'm going to copy out the dots and duplicate and bring them over to the other side with the arrow tool and drop them into place. And we'll merge those down into the main layer as well. So layers, click that top one and merge down. Okay. Now we're going to pick another brush. So we'll add a new layer and go into a new color and pick my brush from that same brush pack. We're going to do the triple liner, and I'm going to draw a rough oval, and if you hold, it will fix the oval for you. You can resize it a little bit. Use the arrow tool and drop it right where you want it. I'm going to go back, add another layer, pick another brush, and I'm going to pick the best marker and start writing in my days. I don't like that, it's a little too big. Make it a little smaller. That's good, I can fit in the whole word. The 11th through the 17th. Okay. Now I'm going to make that text bigger and just fill in my days of the week. It's the same paintbrush. And I'm just resizing the canvas so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Take a look, make sure you like what you've done. And I'm going to pick what's listed as the best eraser, but that's a nice big marker as well. I'm going to make sure I'm in a new layer, and I'm just going to draw across and let Procreate straighten the line for me. I'm going to slide and duplicate, take my arrow tool, and move that same line to the bottom. Just because I'm in the big white journal, there's no color on the edges. So we're just going to add some color before we move back into Goodnotes. Okay, just size that to where I want it with my arrow tool. And add another layer. And we'll draw on the side. It doesn't matter if it's wonky, just hold it and Procreate will straighten it for you. Back to layers. Oh, don't like that, we'll do it again. Okay, go back to layers, swipe and duplicate, take the arrow tool, move it to the other side. Okay, now I'm going to go back into layers and merge those 4 lines into one. Now if they're all on one layer, I'm going to click the N and lower the opacity. So now they all kind of blend together, all the same kind of soft colors. Now deselect the background color and the journal layer, go to the wrench tool, save, PNG, save image. That will put me into my camera roll. Now we go back into Goodnotes, long press, image, photos, and bring in that last photo we just saved. Resize this until we get to all of the edges. The purple is on the edges. And we will just drop that into place. And that's it. Thank you for watching.